Well, the House of Representatives has asked the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to address the recurring depreciation of the naira against the dollar. Now, the lower legislative chamber passed the resolution during plenary session on Tuesday after the adoption of a motion sponsored by Ismaila Haruna Dabo, a lawmaker from Bauchi State. Now, the House also resolved to investigate the alleged use of US dollars and other foreign currencies as legal tenders for domestic transactions in the country. The naira has consistently experienced variations in value ever since the CBN introduced the currency float policy, which now permits market forces to determine exchange rates. Oh well. Joining us virtually to help us make sense of it all, we have Great Imo, Chukuma Okoro, and Nick Agule, both all public affairs commentators. Nick Agule has, an extra cap. He's a chartered accountant as well. All right, so I must welcome the gentlemen. I'm going to start with Nick on this one. Nick, one would wonder, is it a first that Nigeria is doing local transactions in dollars? And what does this portend for the economy, really?
Thank you very much, and good morning, and good morning to all our viewers. Before I address your question pointedly, I would like to say that it looks to me like the members of the National Assembly are a bit ignorant about the role of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank is a banker to the government, but as a banker, if you bank with a bank and there is no money in your account, it's not a bank you will be blaming or asking to do A, B, or C about your account. It is you, the account holder, that has to do something by putting money in that account so that your banker can deal with it. So on a fundamental basis, the motion by the House of Representatives, to me, does not address the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is that what is causing the naira to crash in value against the dollar? And there are only two reasons. Reason number one, we are not getting enough supply of dollars into Nigeria. Reason number two, we are demanding too much dollars. And until the government deals with these two reasons, there is practically nothing that the central bank, which is our banker, is going to do about it. Anything that the central bank does is just cosmetic, because number one, you ask yourself, let us look at the demand side of the demand side of the dollar. What is causing Nigeria to demand the dollar so hugely? And the first answer is petrol. As I speak to you now, Nigerians are driving into petrol stations across the nation, and they are paying naira to buy petrol. But all of that naira, in trillions of naira, is going to be converted to dollars. We will demand dollars for it. In Nigeria has been refined by a refinery abroad that will not accept naira to sell it to us. So we must carry that naira that Nigerians are buying petrol as we speak now, change the dollar to go and import petrol. So if the House of Representatives, for instance, is serious about solving the problem, they should be asking the questions why Nigeria's refineries are still down. Nobody's talking about them. This is not a matter for the central bank. The second area where the demand for naira is huge as we speak today is school fees. As we speak today, parents all over the country have naira in their hand and they are looking for dollars so that they will pay school fees pay accommodation, pay upkeep, pay airfares for their children and wards who are studying abroad. The House of Representatives, therefore, should focus on education. Should say, what are we going to do to reverse the trend so that it will be foreigners who will be coming to Nigeria to study as it used to be before, and not Nigeria looking for dollar to go and spend abroad for education. The third area of huge demand as we speak today is medical care. Nigerians, as I speak now, have naira. They are looking for dollar to go to India, go to France, to Australia, go to Germany, go to all of these places for medical care. The House of Representatives, therefore, if they want to solve the problem, should be focusing on the healthcare sector. How can the central bank stop people from going abroad for medical if the healthcare in Nigeria is collapsing? And of course, we know that every single vehicle, apart from the few that are produced by local suppliers like the Innocents, every other single vehicle on Nigerian road is being imported. Is being imported. So Nigerians are looking for dollar to go and bring in their vehicles. If the House of Rep want to solve the problem, they should start asking the relevant arms of government or departments of government, why is it that our vehicle assembly plants or manufacturing plants have disappeared? What are those fundamental things we need to do to bring them back? And one of the reasons is power supply. Because when supplying enough power to the economy, there is no way there can be manufacturing.
All right. Okay.
I mean, so we can keep on treating the symptoms while we are leaving the causes aside. As far as I'm concerned, the role of the central bank is misplaced.
All right.
This economy has structural issues, so we have to address those structural issues before the time is threatened.
Okay, Mr. Nick, is there any way you would say that the country has profited from the currency float policy, which right now permits market forces to determine exchange rates, which of course was introduced by the central bank? Has Nigeria, or in the long run, will the country profit from this current currency float policy?
Well, the currency float policy is better for us than what was happening before. You know, and I wanted to finish my last point in the one I was raising. You know, I was dealing with the demand side of things. When you look at the side, one critical aspect of that, which is, as we speak today, people are stealing 1 million barrels of Nigeria's crude oil. In fact, I saw a newspaper headline that said the House of Reps is trying to investigate, is it House of Reps or Senate, an arm of the National Assembly, is trying to investigate Nigeria's security forces and other militants about this crude oil theft. We're not doing anything about it. If we do something about it, that means we will sell a lot more crude oil, and then the supply side will also be handled. But we're not doing that. So now, back to your question. This float, is it good for us? Float is good for us. Because we say, before the float, what was happening? So before the float, there were two markets. And technically, there are still two markets now. But the difference between the two markets is not as much as it used to be. So before the float, there were two markets. Those who were privileged, who had access to the powers that be, were able to go to this market where they could buy dollar at, say, 150 naira, a dollar. And then those who were not privileged went to the everyday market, which is the parallel market, and bought dollar at, say, 450 naira. There was an arbitrage of 300 naira. So those who are privileged only took dollars from the so-called official market at 150 and just round-tripped it to the parallel market at 450 and walked away with 300 naira per dollar without lifting a finger to do any work. So if they had access to $1 million in the official market and transferred it into the parallel market, they walked away with 300 million naira gain off our sweat. So that was what was happening before. And there's no way we can allow such criminality to happen. So it is better now that we have allowed the naira to find its appropriate level. And the appropriate level of the naira now is 1,000 naira to exchange for $1. What is now left, and which is what we are not seeing, is the government now taking those fundamental steps, part of which I was describing before, to now energize the economy, boost our local production so that we can export and bring in naira and curtail the demand for dollar so that the exchange rate will correct. Anything outside that is going to be artificial and it will not be sustainable.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Now, let's, Chukuma, good morning to you once again. Now, as it stands, it seems like the government is in a tight place. Uh, it has been almost impossible for Nigeria to, import. But here we are now. The naira keeps, going farther and farther into the ground, bowing against the dollar. I'd rather use that, the naira keeps, putting its head down against the dollar. And that is not good for the Nigerian economy. What are the measures that you think government, in your opinion now, other measures that government can take to ensure that the naira, regains some sense of pride?
Good morning, Moses. Good morning, Chioma. Good morning to co-panelists.
Good morning.
Moses, it's a very simple thing. I think this issue has been overflowed. But what it tells me is that essentially the government has lost a handle on the economy. There are basic things that, okay, let's look at the fundamental issues. The issues at core, which is that you don't export anything apart from the crude oil, which accounts for 90% of your export, making it difficult for you to earn foreign exchange. Now, having established the basis of our problem, what we need to do is to do a role reversal. We have to reverse those issues that brought us to where we are today. My co-panelist, Nick, has as much as mentioned all the areas that need attention. We have practically outsourced Nigeria to foreigners. We have outsourced our education. We have outsourced our tourism. We have outsourced our medicals. We have outsourced practically our consumption because we don't produce anything. If you look around their office, 90% of whatever is in that office, even in my own office here, are all imported. So where do you get the money from to import those things? You run to the exchange market to buy dollar, scarce dollar. And that is exactly why the naira is kowtowing, like you said, kowtowing to the dollar at every point in time. The fact remains that we have remained a consumption nation instead of a production nation. This is about the third time or so we are taking on this issue on this studio, in your studio. Now let's go back to the basics. When the naira was doing good, we had two products that we were exporting, practically the oil, but before then, our agri sector was doing well. You remember the granite pyramids in Kano, you remember the palm oil in the southeast, you remember the cocoa in the southwest. We are even in a better position now, in a better place to do more in agriculture than what we did in the First Republic, because technology has expanded our frontiers of production. There are better ways of doing things now. Unfortunately, or incidentally, those products that we relied on to build a very strong economy in the early 60s have become the primary products that have made some economies very great. Take palm oil, for instance. The whole of Malaysia, Indonesia, we even buy palm oil from them. And the other day I talked about Abia palm. I talked about Ada palm in Imo State. I talked about Rizon palm. What stops us from going back to those places? What happened to the granite? Okay, what of our onions? What of the rice? And I say the whole of the north is an arable farmland that we can produce what we eat, we can even export. And I made instances of the African Free Trade Agreement, which we can cash in on to increase our export base, our export value. What of onions? What of tomatoes? What of cassava? Nigeria happens to be the highest producer of cassava. Why can't we go back to agriculture, which is the basic? Beyond that, and I said that the other time, I said there is no state in this country that has no mineral deposit. The solid mineral sector is lying fallow. Nothing is happening there. Whatever we get in Katsina and Zamfara are going into private pockets. Nigeria doesn't earn anything from there. Not even up to 5% of what is produced in the mineral sector goes to the Nigerian purse.
But so far, in that regard, sorry to interrupt you, in that regard, what do you think? Do you think the minister has been making some headway?
Well, Dele Alake has made some policy pronouncements, but you realize that in our country, our problem is not actually policy formulation. We have the best policies on ground. Okay. We have the best brains. We have Oxford trained. We have Harvard. We have people who went to Cambridge to churn out policies. Our issue is the political will to implement. And if you talk about the solid mineral, you know what goes on in Zamfara and Zamfara and which other states? All those bandit-based areas that it's even difficult, you know, to get a handle on how much those minerals are worth and how much are produced and how much gets into the Nigerian purse, into the nation's coffers. And if you look at the steel sector, which is another very important sector, very viable. If the steel sector was functioning, we don't need to talk about having to buy most of the cars from overseas. Because that is the foundation of car production, the steel sector. So if you ask me, the minister might, okay, he might have a few policy pronouncements, like I said, soundbites, we are going to do this, we are going to do this, but beyond that, what happens? Implementation is the issue.
Okay.
So basically, what we need to do is to de-emphasize our dependency on the oil. If you look at what is going on with the Naira exchange rate and the dollar and other foreign currencies, I'm afraid we are on the road to Venezuela. We are actually on the road to Venezuela because the Naira will keep tumbling until you rejig and re-engineer to the economy to the extent that you bring down the value of the percentage of your foreign exchange that comes from oil and then beef it up with other non-oil products. That is one thing that we need to do, and do it very fast because we don't have time. Unfortunately, by the time these things go down, the spiraling effect, by the time it goes down, it takes like 3 times the time and the effort it took to go down to bring it up. So clearly, the coast is very dangerous.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chukwuma. Let's now move to Great Imo. Thank you again for joining us and for being on standby. Now, following what Mr. Chukwuma Okoro has said, the reps member who moved this motion said the alarming exchange rate has impacted Nigeria's economy, causing untold hardship due to increased demand for dollars and a dollar shortage. Now, we have instances of even domestic organizations, domestic businesses right here in Nigeria, like restaurants, schools, demanding dollar payment, you know, from people who live in Nigeria, who probably earn in Naira as well. And this is due to, you know, so many factors. We just need to know, in your own opinion, what long-term strategies should the CBN put in place to actually stabilize the value of the Naira so that this impact on Nigeria's economy, this impact that it has on even some medium-scale enterprises as well, the importers, the restaurants, so that we don't have this going on. Even if the House say they want to investigate businesses who are receiving dollars, how do those businesses, how do they earn their money? How do those businesses, do they import the products that they make? I'd like to see how you weigh into the issue, Mr. Great.
Well, oh, thank you, and good morning to our viewers. I like to make my intervention by actually trying to deal with the other core issues that are actually, leading to all of this mess that we're in. And the National Assembly is trying to probe uh, the dollar and the naira exchange rate. It's fundamentally laughable because sometimes you find out that the biggest challenge Nigeria has right now is the moral challenge. Is the moral challenge. Let me say that because Nick have said that, Mr. Chukuma have contributed. We have had so many expert opinions on various issues in Nigeria. You go to our archives and ministries. I once visited in fact, I once was engaged with the Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development about 2019 or thereabout. I went into one of the offices and I saw bags and bags of Ghana Must Gold bags, and then what was all inside were documents that in various ministries and government agencies. There are many of such piles of documents, some of them on roadmaps, some of them on strategies, some of them on, we had Vision 2010, we had Vision 2020. I have thought about Nigeria and I've come to the conclusion that the real challenge in Nigeria is the moral authority of those who govern. Some of these elements who came to power are morally deficient. Sometimes they lack the capacity, in the sense they lack the moral authority to even enforce some of this, to implement some of these things. Some of those who come to round trip and do all manner of things, manipulate the currency, are friends of those in power. And especially most of those people in power who are morally deficient can't even challenge them because they will be afraid this will lead to the collapse of their government. That's one. Number two, what am I talking about moral authority? We saw recently that our president is being probed for forging documents. And you can't have a president who is that morally deficient be able to stand up to foreign powers to want to protect his national interest. For example, we have had Naira and this is currency swap agreement with China. 60% of our import is from China. And you really don't require dollar to go and bring in goods, at least if we have to continue to import certain things for now. Because I have taken cognizance of what my colleague said about import dependency, which is very, very bad. Because, and as we are talking, why government is going about talking about the dollar, they've not even put anything in place to mitigate again. For example, we need to have a backward integration strategies to ensure that home production is improved on certain things. We are still importing rice, smuggling rice because we can't still produce enough. There are so many other things like that. So you have to effectively deal with productivity here. The capacity to produce is not there. We are not putting much effort in producing. They are putting much effort in politics and propaganda. The energy we will spend on planning. There are some goods we need, some products we need that have that are about 6 months, 10 months, this is a maturity period that we should have been working on to reduce import dependency on food, on energy. We need energy mix to be able to reduce pressure on the dollar by, but if we find other means from which we can generate energy here, home productivity and all of those things, if you are done dealing with those things and you must import, the question to ask is that you are supposed to be importing from which country? Let's say 60% from China, and China is ready to take your naira and give you their own yuan when you have a transaction with them. But Nigerian government is afraid to implement it because the president is looking for favor with Chicago State University, so now you will not have irreparable damage. So they can't stand up to the foreign their foreign counterpart to demand that what is in the best interest of the Nigerian economy be done. No. Look at China, America, Russia is the most sanctioned country in the world right now. Nobody has seen it, over 12,000 sanctions, and they are still staying ahead. Why German economy is through recession is tanking. Russia economy is moving. Simple mathematics. 3 things run the world: food, fuel, and finance. If you financialize your economy, you will be the one to have problems. So what does Russia do? Please, you want to trade with me? It is my goods. Pay me in ruble. Go and look for it whichever you want. You are the one who wants my property, so you have to do this. Number one, Russia is able to produce. Russia is able to take care of its immediate needs. Russia is able to export the essential commodities and even some, to an extent, technology, including nuclear technology, but they demand payment in their own currencies. And you too, in response, says, oh, Russia, I can't then give you dollar because you don't need dollar. I need to give you my own currency. Then they resorted to what they call basket of currencies. And a lot of countries are doing it right now to stay away from the pressure of dollar, because as American economy is entering into debt, America is $33 trillion in debt right now. It's the most indebted nation in the world. And because they have the monopoly of dollar, they print as much and spread across the world. Inflation increases in the world, and that is how the economy stays strong. If you want to stay off that pressure, you need to be productive. You need to demand payment in basket of currencies. You must still use the dollar where you are dealing with a country that requires dollar, or where you're trading with those who use dollar, like America. But you must have the moral authority to do it. Buhari signed this currency swap agreement with China under Sanusi, under Jonathan it was initiated. Buhari could not implement it because the domestic politics, they want to use Nigeria's interest and the economy to bargain, to stave off pressure for the nonsense they are doing domestically. They are using Nigeria's in general interest to trade, to stave off international pressure. But where you are standing strong with your people, where you are transparent with governance, where you are not corrupt, where you don't need this external endorsement, you stay with your people. You can be confident enough to go into this policy direction, like we see some other countries doing. You stave off this pressure of dollar and dollar. Secondly, you find that somebody was a P2B talked about the underground currency, dollarization of the economy. Some of these people who even require these dollars are not using them for trade. They are actually using them as store of value. They are using them as store of value. So, especially, you can earn your dollar and keep it. You can spend it the way you want it. There won't be problem. But why should federal government earn dollar and give to individuals and you don't even determine what they use it for? And most of these people are not doing essential anything, and including those who import. What do you export? There must be some corresponding issues that must be dealt with. But I tell you that one thing people don't know, that the integrity of leadership is one of the most the intangible asset of nation. When leadership lack the morals, when they lack the integrity, when they lack the endorsement of citizens, there are certain decisions they can't take because they will be afraid it may come back haunting them. These are some of the issues that the people are not even thinking about, but are relevant in the realm of currency, politics, and global economy. Right, and I tell you, in the case of Nigeria, it is very much one of the issues.
All right, you've made some very valid points there. But let's take a listen to the conversation that took place at the floor of the House when they were talking about probing the use of dollar as legal tender in Nigeria. Let's take a listen, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to implement monetary policy adjustment to stabilize the currency, address speculative activities in the forex market, and increase the withdrawal limit of Naira to reduce pressure on dollars and foreign currencies, despite the regulation. Also, to urge the federal government to formulate policies and structural reforms to reduce corruption, promote economic diversification within the nation's economy. 3, further urge the federal government to promote exportation and export and reduce importation by enhancing foreign investors' confidence on its fiscal and monetary policies. 4, mandate the committees on banking regulations and national security and intelligence to interface with the Central Bank of Nigeria with the purpose of initiating compliance strategies, and also mandate the Committee on Banking Regulation to investigate the use of dollars and other foreign currencies as legal tender for domestic transactions in Nigeria.
If you want to fly some of the foreign airlines, they charge you in dollars. Mr. Speaker, it is illegal and it should be stopped. Mr. Speaker, in some high-end markets in the real estate, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, they charge dollars. Mr. Speaker, this is criminal. It should not be allowed, it should be stopped.
Putting pressure on our currency today is that we are import dependent. Nigeria is depending so much on everything. We import everything into this country.
So that's the conversation at the floor of the House of Reps when they were talking about this dollarization
of the Nigerian economy.
As it is. All right, so I'm going to quickly come to Nick now. Nick, now we do know that it's. Would you call this lip service? Because sometime in 2022, yeah, well, this one I know I know this one for sure. In 2022, South African Airlines insisted on collecting dollars for flights. South African Airlines, you know, and that's also one of the reasons Nigeria has, you know, an ongoing tussle with Emirates Airlines. Because they have been unable to repatriate repatriate the dollars. What do you make of this move now by the House of Reps? Is this lip service, or what is going on truly? Don't forget that during the elections, and we talked about this this morning, during electioneering, during campaigning and all of that, there were also rumors that dollar exchanged hands. You know, some candidates paid people in dollars. Nick, please.
Thank you very much. So let me confirm to you that even currently, because I had this experience a couple of weeks ago, Turkish Airlines, if you go onto their website, the ticket is priced in dollars. And when you select your seat, you select your trip, everything, and they offer you the dollar amount for your ticket, they now have a list of countries where you can select the country and the ticket is converted into that country's local currency so that you cannot pay in the local currency. Nigeria was not on that list. I mean, anybody can go and confirm. Nigeria is not on that list of countries on Turkish Airlines ticketing portal where you can convert the dollar to Nigerian naira and make your payment. So these things are with us. And you ask me if the action of the House of Rep in probing this is lip service. Of course, it is lip service, because let the House of Reps themselves put their hand on their chest and confirm that they are not demanding for dollars from people who have one thing or the other to do with them. That is the order of the day. I can also guarantee you that government officials are demanding dollars for monies that they need to get illegally from people who have one thing or the other to do with them. And in the political times, you said it was a rumor. I can also guarantee that to you on national television, that somebody I know who went to one of the political party conventions came back to my house with dollars that he got at that place. So it's no longer a rumor or anything. Of course, this is what is happening. There are hotels that are pricing their room rates in dollars and all of that. And you mentioned about the airlines, which is the matter with the Emirates Airlines, one of the reasons they left and all of that. Again, that is a matter that the government used its own hands to create. You know, Nigerian government officials, they create problems, and they spend the whole time attempting to solve it.
All right. Okay, I think we have a glitch in the network there.
And the official reforms.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
okay, well, if that'll be all.
Yeah, we did have a bit of a network glitch there, but our time is fast spent. We need to move on to the
Can you hear me?
topic.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. But there was a glitch in the network, so we didn't
I
get
was rounding up. I was rounding up to say that matter with the airlines, which you rightly talked about, was caused by Nigerian government. The central bank asked the airlines to sell tickets at the official rate and promised that they will give them. So when the airlines now collect the naira at the official rate, the central bank promised that I will take that naira and give you dollars. And the central bank never had dollars again because the NNPC that was to drop the dollars in the kitty was now saying they are using the dollars to import petrol. And that is how the airlines naira got trapped.
Okay.
So because they couldn't get dollars.
So
but
what
was the government's business with airline ticket? The government should have allowed people to just buy tickets at whatever rate the airlines are offering. And if you don't have money to buy the ticket, please stay at home. Okay. You know, we just create problems and we spend all the time solving it. That was a problem that was created by the government.
All right. So, well, government, we hope that government will find a way to solve this problem that they seem to have created. Well, let's get the final thoughts on this topic from Chukwuma Okoro and Great Imo as well, before we move on to the very next one. And I would like you gentlemen to, give us your final thoughts in about a minute or two each, please. Thank you. Go ahead. Great Imo. You go first.
Okay. Well, what the challenges are include the fact that we need to increase our productivity, and then we need to increase also the policymakers. By now, I thought that if Tinubu was a serious person, sorry to use that language, but anyway, by now they would have at least made policies that would demand that every government, anything that government institutions from national to sub-nationals require that is produced in Nigeria, Nigerian companies must be patronized. Absolutely. We need some of these travels that are not useful to Nigeria's development that requires them to demand dollars for export removed. These things can be dealt with. But I think, like I mentioned, the root cause has been that they don't have the self-discipline. You have a group of people who don't have self-discipline, and that is where the leadership begins. Nigeria have the greatest potential. Even we're talking about foreign airlines, for example, if we fight for indigenous airlines to be able to apply the routes under IOTA rules, they can carry Nigerians to the UK and everywhere in the Naira. If you say your own country will not come, no problem. Then if Nigeria must fly foreign airline, they look for the dollar from wherever they can get it and pay. And Nigerian government should not intervene with government money where there is just individual interests. I think people want to go and do holiday in UK and you're looking for dollars.
All right then, thank you very much. Great email. Chukwuma Okoro, please let's have your final thoughts on this as well.
Okay, Moses, I think the Reps members do not have the moral right to investigate the dollarization of Naira. And if they do, they should start from themselves. Like you said, dollar actually exchanged hands during the national conventions. And incidentally, all the members of the reps were delegates to their national convention. And I'm sure all of them benefited from the dollarization of politics in first instance. Secondly, what we need to do is, like I said, is go back to the basics. We have outsourced Nigeria, so we need to bring everything back. Tourism, I mean, even America, you see Obudu Cattle Ranch or the Agongu Fishing Festival or one of those tourist sites in the West, in Osun State. The person doesn't need Naira. He comes in with dollar. In West African countries, if you build world-class medical centers, world-class hospitals, when people come here, they are going to come in with dollar. So essentially, what we need to do is to reduce our dependency on oil. And talk is cheap. We have talked a lot. This is the time to get into action. This is the time to get into action. The government should actually get a handle on the economy, because from the way things are, like I said before, we are on the road to Venezuela, and that is not a very good road. We need to come back. We need to retrace our steps immediately.
Thank you very much, Chukwuma Okoro, as well. Well, let's go on to the second topic, and would like you to stay with us, please, as we get into the second topic for discussion this morning.
Well, up next on VOP this morning, it is expected to move from grass to grace. But unfortunately, this is not the case of some immigrants who, get caught up with the jackpot syndrome. Let's get right into this when we return from the short break.